2023 has been a good year for US soccer. Following a positive campaign at the 2022 World Cup, the team has grown in strength significantly by adding more talent to the ranks, particularly in the form of Monaco striker Folarin Balogun. The USMNT also won the CONCACAF Nations League in June, defeating rivals Mexico and Canada on their way to the trophy. It's safe to say the national team is on the up with a bright future ahead. But while the USMNT has blossomed on the pitch, it's not been as smooth for the team behind the scenes, with the first half of 2023 clouded in controversy. Most of the controversy involved manager Gregg Berhalter. In early 2023, Berhalter was involved in a domestic violence investigation, throwing his status as head coach into doubt. However, that was just the tip of the iceberg, as the drama with the USMNT camp was a lot deeper than anyone expected. Here's the story of two feuding families, a future American star, and a vacant coaching position. Gregg Berhalter isn't the most popular man among fans of the USMNT. In 2018, following the team's failure to qualify for the 2018 World Cup, there was a raft of executive resignations, including head coach Bruce Reyna and head of the US Soccer Federation, Sunil Gulati. These resignations left the COO of the federation in charge of affairs, a man with a last name you might recognize, Gregg Berhalter. As the new man in charge, Jay had a lot to do to get US soccer back on its feet following 2018's disappointment. His primary task, however, was finding a new coach to take the team forward, and he eventually settled on his younger brother, Gregg Berhalter. To many, this was a decision influenced by nepotism, as Gregg wasn't the most qualified candidate or the most successful coach available to the USMNT at the time. He has endured a frosty relationship with the fans ever since, with many questioning his tactics and the development of some of the team's young players, which brings us to the subject of this video: Gregg Berhalter's relationship with US youngster Gio Reyna. Reyna is widely considered the next big superstar of American football. Like Pulisic a few years ago, the 20-year-old is a fan favorite and a prodigy, with high expectations on his shoulders. However, Reyna doesn't always see eye to eye with USMNT manager Gregg Berhalter. Approaching the 2022 World Cup, Reyna had spent the majority of the year injured, leading to reduced involvement for both club and country. But the youngster would regain some fitness and feature regularly for Dortmund in October and November, ahead of the tournament in the winter, hinting that he was ready for an important role with the USMNT. But things unfolded differently in Qatar. In the opening game against Wales, Reyna was an unused substitute, with Berhalter hinting at the youngster facing fitness issues. Reyna, however, was in disagreement. Speaking to reporters after the game, he said, "I mean, you never know. You can't say if you're going to play or not, but I was definitely excited to play. It's not my decision." He played just 12 minutes in the second game against England, and was an unused sub in the final group game against Iran. He played a further 45 minutes in the round of 16 as the US was eliminated against the Netherlands. This didn't seem like headline news initially, with Reyna often struggling with fitness issues and Berhalter having a tried and trusted midfield of Tyler Adams, Yunus Musah, and Weston McKennie. And to be fair to Berhalter, the US midfield was a very effective unit all tournament. But tension would slowly heat up and eventually boil over in the week following their elimination from the World Cup. Just a few days after the elimination, Berhalter spoke at a leadership summit and singled out an unnamed member of his squad, saying, "We had a player that was clearly not meeting expectations on and off the field. One of 26 players, so it stood out. As a staff, we sat together for hours deliberating what we were going to do with this player. We were ready to book a plane ticket home. That's how extreme it was." 5 days later, Berhalter's comments went public, sending the media into a frenzy. And naturally, the question on everyone's lips was who? His comments didn't go down well with the Reyna family, who already knew Berhalter's remarks were aimed at Gio. And this is where the drama takes a crazy turn. Gio's parents are very close with the Berhalter family. His dad, Claudio Reyna, was a former teammate of Gregg, playing youth football together and representing the USMNT together for many years. They've enjoyed a strong bond off the pitch for over 30 years. And reports even say Claudio played a role in landing Berhalter the job as coach of the national team. Gio's mum, Danielle Reyna, also had a close friendship with the wife of Gregg Berhalter from their days together at college. So in many ways, they all saw themselves as a family, making the drama that would unfold all the more bizarre. Following Berhalter's comments, and with media suspicions growing that the player in question was indeed Reyna, the Dortmund midfielder released a statement, all but confirming that he was the player being referred to. In the statement, he said, I hope not to comment on matters at the World Cup. It is my belief that things that happen in a team setting ought to remain private. That being said, statements have been made that reflect on my professionalism and character, so I feel the need to make a brief statement. He would go on to state that ahead of the team's opening game against Wales, he was informed by Berhalter that he would play a minimal role for the US at the tournament. But according to him, he remained professional and committed to helping the team despite being disappointed. But Gregg Berhalter saw things differently, hinting at Reyna sulking and not giving his all in training after receiving the news. Already irate from their son's lack of involvement at the World Cup, the Reyna family saw Berhalter's comments as an insult. And on the same day the comments were made public, US Soccer Federation Sporting Director Ernie Stewart received information relating to a domestic violence case involving manager Gregg Berhalter. The person who provided this information would later be revealed to be Gio's mum, Danielle Reyna, who saw it as payback for Berhalter's treatment of her son. But the domestic violence case wouldn't be news to the public for a few weeks after Reyna's statement. On January 1st, 2023, Gregg Berhalter's contract was up with a renewal expected to be a formality after the USMNT's impressive World Cup campaign, but an announcement wasn't forthcoming. On January 3rd, Berhalter took to social media disclosing the details of the 1991 domestic violence incident. He had got into an argument with his then-girlfriend, Rosalind, now his wife, and kicked her. They broke up, and Gregg went to therapy. Eventually, they got back together and got married. Obviously, this was in the past and a very long time ago, and Berhalter would have preferred if this news remained out of the public eye. But as part of his statement, he said someone had contacted the US Federation with this information with a plan to take him down. Shortly after Berhalter's statement, the US Federation released a statement of their own, saying that they had hired an outside law firm to investigate the allegations against Berhalter first raised on December 11th, which explained the delay in renewing his contract. The day after the announcements, ESPN revealed that Danielle Reyna was behind the 1991 incident between Gregg Berhalter and his partner being disclosed to the Federation. In a statement, Danielle said, "I wanted to let Ernie Stewart know, but I was absolutely outraged and devastated that Gio had been put in such a terrible position, and that I felt very personally betrayed by the actions of someone my family had considered a friend for decades. I thought it was especially unfair that Gio, who had apologized for acting immaturely about his playing time, was still being dragged through the mud, when Gregg had asked for and received forgiveness for doing something so much worse at the same age." Claudio Reyna also backed his wife's statement, with both adamant their intention wasn't to get Berhalter sacked as manager of the team. While the investigation was still going on, Ernie Stewart left his role at the Federation, further delaying the decision on a new manager, and he was replaced by Matt Crocker. With Berhalter still in limbo and a couple of games set to be played by the USMNT, Anthony Hudson took up the role of interim head coach, having served as Berhalter's assistant for 2 years. But despite his familiarity with the squad, he wasn't a serious candidate for the role of permanent head coach, and was only there to make sure a coach was present for the USMNT's games. Hudson would only coach 5 games before being replaced as the interim manager by BJ Callahan ahead of the Nations League finals, a tournament the US would win by beating Canada in the final in June 2023. During the team's Nations League campaign, noise from the media began hinting at Berhalter's return to coaching the team. On March 10th, prior to Callahan taking over as interim coach, the US Soccer Federation published a report on their investigation of the Berhalter case. In their report, they stated that due to the incident occurring 26 years ago, it did not prevent an employer from hiring Berhalter. It also stated that it was an isolated incident, and there was no proof of a repeat at any other time. This cleared the path for Berhalter to return as coach, but the Federation chose to remain patient in their decision. But on June 16th, the decision to reinstate Berhalter was finalized and made public. The news received mixed reactions across the country, with many fans ready to move on from Berhalter, especially with links to Jesse Marsch earlier in the year. But according to the reports, his return had the backing of senior squad members like Pulisic, Tim Ream, and captain Tyler Adams, who were fond of his playstyle. However, the elephant in the room had to be addressed for the team to move forward. Interestingly, the first comments regarding the Reyna Berhalter situation didn't come from either party. Instead, new director of the Federation Matt Crocker said, "Of course, Gregg has had conversations with Gio Reyna, and we are in a place where as soon as Gio is fit, he'll be in the next camp. and there'll be a way forward. But questions remained about how Reyna and Berhalter would fit going forward. Not just with the existing feuds between their families, but also due to the fact that Reyna wasn't an obvious fit in Berhalter's preferred midfield setup. Berhalter made his return to the dugout on September 9, 2023, in a 3-0 win over Uzbekistan. At the time, Reyna was in rehabilitation from an injury that prevented him from being part of the squad, but he was finally called up by Berhalter ahead of matches against Germany and Ghana in October. Speaking at a press conference ahead of the game against Germany, Berhalter addressed his relationship with Reyna, saying, "We're moving forward. I do not really want to talk too much about the past. I think Gio's done a great job in training, really sharp, really strong. We see his quality, and for us, it's about how we build him up." With Tyler Adams injured, Reyna took his place in midfield, alongside McKennie and Musa, and started both games against Germany and Ghana with positive performances, including a brace in the game against Ghana. On the face of it, this seems to be the end of the Berhalter-Reyna feud within the national team, as the two parties have now shown a willingness to bury the hatchet and move forward. But they aren't the only two involved in the drama. All year, Claudio and Danielle Reyna have remained adamant that they did no wrong and that their actions were justified. The investigation carried out by the US Soccer Federation concluded that while they believed the allegation had been shared in an effort to dissuade the federation from hiring Berhalter for another term as head coach, the Reynas' conduct did not constitute blackmail or extortion. An apology or any sort of acknowledgement is yet to surface from either Berhalter or Gio's parents, so maybe the saga isn't completely over. What's clear, however, is that Gio and Berhalter are both focused on winning, and with the 2026 World Cup set to be played in the US, both men working together is crucial for the USMNT's success.